Hi, my name is Christy Berner, and I will be giving a presentation on the article, The Hidden Costs of Organizational Dishonesty. This article was written by Robert B. Cladini, Patricia K. Petrova, and Noah J. Goldstein. This article discussed three malignancies. The authors define this as internal consequences. This is the quote that is taken from this article. An organization that regularly teaches, encourages, condones, or allows the use of dishonest tactics in its external dealings, that is, towards customers, clients, stockholders, suppliers, distributors, regulators, and so on, will experience a set of internal consequences. These malignancies will be discussed in this presentation, and there's three of them that the authors discuss that I will also be discussing. The first malignancy is reputation degradation. And this quote by Edison W. Spencer, the authors mentioned, I believe it sums up the reputation degradation perfectly. The businessman who straddles a fine line between what is right and what is expedient should remember that it takes years to build a good business reputation, but one false move can destroy the reputation overnight. It takes a lot of time for companies to build themselves up, to get a good reputation, to have great vendors, to have great customers, to have great employees. And because of one little dishonest act, it can spiral downward and they can lose all good reputation that they do have. It can affect their vendors, their suppliers, alliances that they have with certain companies. It will eventually affect everybody and the word will get out. It doesn't only affect their current customers or clients, but it will also have a huge impact on possible future businesses as well. People talk, companies talk, they refer to one another. They will have a negative consequence as a result of dishonest behaviors. Is really something important that companies need to consider. The second malignancy the authors discuss is called mismatches between values of employees and organizations. And there's two different mismatches they discuss. The first one is a poor fit for organizational dishonesty. This is where they have an honest employee who is uncomfortable and is not okay with the dishonest acts that are happening in the organization. And as a result, they're eventually going to lose such great employees. They're going to see an increase in absenteeism, lower job satisfaction, higher turnover. These employees are not going to be dedicated in the way that they need to be. They're not going to be putting their whole effort into the job, and they're going to start looking and find something better for them where they can feel like they are doing the best thing possible and being honest in all their deeds. The second mismatch, a good fit for organizational dishonesty, is where you have dishonest employees and a dishonest organization. Oftentimes, dishonest organizations are looking for employee or potential employees that can be dishonest, employees that will comply with the acts that are taking place in an organization. Someone who is just a yes man, basically. They're going to say yes and just do whatever their supervisor tells them. They're going to be watching for that type of personality as they are hiring people. It's going to have an impact on some of the honest employees. They can turn some of their honest employees into dishonest employees. This is a slow process oftentimes, but a good, honest person can be slowly become dishonest by peer pressure, by trying to appease a supervisor. Slow little acts of dishonesty and negative behavior can get them slowly more dishonest until they don't realize that they're being dishonest. It just becomes the way of their life. So companies oftentimes are building these dishonest employees well. So at the end of the day, you've lost all your really great honest employees, and you are left with dishonest employees that you've hired and honest employees that you have made into dishonest employees. So a huge problem for organizations. If you have dishonest employees and a dishonest organization, how are you going to ever have any honesty in your organization? The third consequence or malignancy is increased surveillance. I thought this was really interesting. It's something I hadn't really thought a lot about, but there's a lot of surveillance nowadays. We're putting video surveillance around our buildings, inside of our buildings, in our supply closets, in our supply rooms, but we're also surveilling software on computers, iPads, phones. We are watching everything that everybody is doing. We're trying to catch that one bad move. And the authors really discuss the negative impact on employees and the value that they feel. The first one they talked about, health consequences, is it leads to more stress, anxiety, depression. It leads to people missing more work because they're taking care of their mental needs, their mental illnesses, let's say. Employees start to feel like they are not trustworthy, that the employees or the employer doesn't trust them, and nobody wants to be in a situation where they don't feel like anybody trusts what they say, or they don't think they're an honest person. Those people eventually are going to leave. They don't want to be in this type of atmosphere. There could also be a backlash. There could be people who either play games with the system and try just for fun to not get caught by the surveillance. But there also could be just retaliation of people stealing things or acting poorly just because there's starting to be surveillance and they're not happy about it. The next one is undermining positive behavior. So people act positively because they act positively, because that's who they are. They're honest because they're honest. And this is now making employees act honest and positively just because they are being watched, not because that is who they are. And that can have a huge impact on the employee and their self-esteem, which at the end of the day can affect their productivity as well. And the last one is overestimate influence of monitoring. Managers will begin to rely upon this monitoring. They think that the systems, the surveillance systems are catching everything. They don't need to worry about it. There's no problems unless they're brought up by the surveillance. And this isn't always the case. We all know that if somebody wants to steal something, somebody's dishonest, it will happen. They're smart enough. They don't need a surveillance system to catch them. They will do what they need to get away from it. So the surveillance can really have a negative effect on just the well-being of the employee and how happy they feel, how trusted they feel, and can lead to them leaving. And once again, you're left with people who are dishonest or who don't really care about their job. So these are the 3 malignancies that the authors discuss in The Hidden Costs of Organizational Dishonesty. They have a huge impact on organizations. They are very, very costly. You don't necessarily think of the financial dollars when you think of unhappy employees and such, but it adds up. Their absenteeism adds up. The turnover adds up. And at the end of the day, you are stuck with probably some really poor employees that aren't going to be the type of employees that run a good business. In the end of the article, it discusses how an honest culture needs to happen, how it needs to stay existing. And it starts with the top upper management executives. They are responsible for setting the tone or the example. They need to train their employees to be honest. They need to show they're honest in words and in deed, that they are honest, and that is what is expected. They need to reward for honesty. They need to always be that picture perfect honest person so that the employees will also do so. But they also need to remember that honesty needs to happen everywhere, in the small little things. If we're being dishonest in little things, it could eventually grow to big things. We need to concentrate and make sure that everything we are doing is honest, even the small things, the big things, so that we're prepared to always make honest decisions and don't get caught up in making small choices here, poor choices here and there that lead us to making bigger choices later. And by acting honest in all things, it will protect companies and individuals from these malignancies. This was a great article, and I encourage everyone to read it. Thank you.